We have our first team to make it to the Final Four. On today's edition of Locked On NHL, Hunter, Hodies, and I are going to break down who's going to join the Edmonton Oilers in the conference finals and a whole lot more on today's edition of Locked On NHL.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this jam-packed Thursday edition of Locked On NHL. I am Nick Zararis, the host of Locked On Oilers. That's my good friend and my co-host, Hunter Hodies, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Penguins. And we want to thank everyone that's making Locked On NHL their first listen of the day. Locked On NHL is a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we've got your team covered every day. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, where right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. On today's jam-packed edition of Locked On NHL, very straightforward today, folks. Our opening segment, we're going to talk about the two Western Conference series. We'll start with the Oilers advancing over the Golden Knights. We will pivot to tonight's action between the Stars and the Jets. Second segment, we'll hit on the Eastern Conference. Toronto going out very sadly in Game 5 to be down 3-2 in their series. We'll hit on the Carolina-Washington series that stands at 3-1. And we will wrap up our final segment of today's show, hitting on some of the coaching and GM hires around the league over the course of the last 2 weeks. So, Hunter, my friend, we both liked Vegas in that series. We both picked Vegas in that series. We thought their defense, and frankly, we thought their goaltending, the Adin Hill versus Stuart Skinner or Calvin Pickard discussion, was going to make it relatively academic. You saw how poorly the Oilers' goaltending was in that series against the Kings, and then the Oilers won 6 games in a row. They lose the one game they do lose in this series in the most frustrating way possible, and they respond by playing 2 of their best games of the entire season. And I said it on the Thursday Locked On Oilers that went out about 3 a.m. Eastern time by the time it was done last night. Chris Knobloch's either a genius or he's the luckiest man alive, and if you keep getting lucky over and over again, maybe you are just that good.
100%. And I felt like you could have made an argument that Vegas could have been up 2-1. In that series, they outplayed the Oilers in Game 2, didn't get the result. You win Game 3, and I felt that the Knights outplayed the Oilers in Game 3. They win that game, but they're down 2-1, and then obviously we all saw what happened in Games 4 and 5. But I will take a fat L on this one. I picked Vegas in 6, and Edmonton said, screw that, and absolutely whooped their butts up and down the ice for most of the series. It felt like to me that Jack Eichel was one of the only players that really wanted it on Vegas throughout this entire series. I think Hanifin was decent. Theodore, Pietrangelo were fine. Stone, it was just unfortunate that he was banged up. But Nick, Eichel was going at them shift after shift. I felt like he was by far the best player on the Golden Knights in this series. But with Edmonton, you had the star players show up, and especially the depth players. Evander Kane made his presence felt. Trent Frederick made his presence felt. Connor Brown was very good. Even Matthias Janmark, I felt like, had a pretty decent series for the Oilers. Kulak was good. I thought John Klingberg had a pretty decent series. And that's where I felt like the series was really won for me with Edmonton, was their depth badly outshined Vegas's depth. I said going into this series, I felt like Vegas was the deeper team. And when you look at that lineup, Nick, they can roll 4 lines. Like we were talking throughout the season that Vegas might be not just the best team in this division, but the best team in the Western Conference. We both saw a good opportunity for them to come out of this conference, and they got destroyed by the Oilers' depth in this series. Yeah, Eichel really showed up, but when you compare it to the Oilers stars, they showed up more than some of the other Golden Knight stars. I felt like, Hurdle wasn't as good in this series. Again, it sucks that Stone was a bit banged up. Dorofeev.
Pietrangelo as well.
Yeah, of course. Dorofeev, I felt like he was fine, but he wasn't up to par to where he was during the season. Like the Oilers did such a good job shutting down a lot of the Golden Knights' big guns, which I also felt like was a big turning point because the Oilers, man, they defended a lot in this series, especially against the Kings. When you think about it, they were really leaky against them that entire series. They had to just outscore them in all 6 games. This series, though, they got to tone it back a little bit. Like they were able to, obviously you saw, they won that 1-0 game. And they were really limiting Vegas offensively. Even without Matthias Ekholm, man, that's a high fee, especially against a Bruce Cassidy coach team. And then, yeah, I didn't see Stuart Skinner and Cal Pickard outplaying Adin Hill at all.
2 straight shutouts for Stuart Skinner, who got benched. He was so bad.
Adin Hill was stinky in this series,
he
man.
was leaky.
A
He was
lot
really
of bad
bad.
goals he gave up. I still don't know what he was doing on that game winner from Kasperi Kapanen last night. Just a very weird goal that he gave up. Yeah, I know Kapanen was really good jamming away at that puck, second, third, fourth effort, but I still don't know what Aiden Hill was doing on that play. He was not good in this series. And Chris Knobloch just coached circles around Bruce Cassidy, which is a pretty high feat, Nick, because I think Cassidy is one of the 5 to 6 best coaches in the league, in my opinion. So
Me too.
you know that Vegas is not going to take this lightly. Their front office and their ownership are going to be really upset.
Here, write it down right now. May 15th, 11:57 a.m. Mitch Marner, Vegas Golden Knight, July 1st. Write it down.
I could see it. Again, they're not going to take this lightly. They are the one team in this league that operates like an NBA team. They are going to be really upset this summer. I think you're going to see them make a lot of moves. But Edmonton, second straight Western Conference final, and
third in 4 years.
I know I picked against them in this last round, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing that going forward, even if they get Dallas. I think Dallas is better equipped to play them this year, but with the way Edmonton's playing right now, I think they might go to the final. That was a great series from them.
So real quick, I want to get this stat in on the show to show I did my research before we did this. So in this series, the Vegas Golden Knights had a grand total of 4 even strength goals in 5 games. The Oilers' first line in this series of Draisaitl, McDavid, and Perry contributed 4 even strength goals alone. The Oilers have power play issues they need to rectify. They could stand to get slightly better goaltending, but they're in really good shape with the offense they've been getting up and down the lineup. You alluded to it. Stars and Jets tonight, elimination opportunity, closeout opportunity, and the Stars have figured out the secret to the contemporary NHL. You got to have a guy, is he a guy, the bad man, the Aaron Rodgers, the Stephen A. Smith? You got to have at least one of those guys. And it seems like
that could be the difference this year. If they get to the final, they might have the dude to take them there. And Mikko Rantanen has been unbelievable. That's the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause about taking Edmonton in the Western Conference final. Like as of right now, I think I would, but Dallas now has Rantanen and Nick. Jake Ottinger is playing outstanding.
He's locked in
this year.
He's locked in.
Like we've been talking, there's a lot of conjecture up there about, Hellebuck, Ottinger, Team USA. Well, Ottinger is playing like the better goalie right now.
It's a fascinating discussion to have, and it'll burn more during the summer when there's nothing going on. But you look at a Stars team that's playing Wyatt Johnston, who has like the 4th most goals of anybody in the playoffs ever before the age of 23. And Wyatt Johnston's on their 3rd line with like Jamie Benn. And they have the options of rolling rolling Hintz with Rantanen. You have Granlund in there as well, who's had a nice playoffs, had the hat trick the last game these two teams played. And if you're Winnipeg, kitchen sink. It doesn't matter that you're down 3-1. You got to come out with as much energy as you possibly can. And don't do what Vegas did. Vegas tried to play as defensive a game as possible to not lose the game. And it was 0-0 for 60 minutes. If you want to try and beat Dallas, who is a better defensive team, who can score more than you, I feel you have a better chance of trying to win a 5-4, 4-3 type of game against Dallas than a 1-0 game, because the margin for error is a little bit bigger in the higher scoring game. So if you're the Jets, you got to throw caution to the wind, like at the end of the water boy. You can't hold anything back. Last game of the season. That's how you got to there is no next game. It's we got to win tonight. And whatever it takes to do that is what we got to do. It's
got to be like a little mini version of the Hurricanes, right? Where you're just throwing everything at net, quantity over quality. That's really what you got to do for this game. The Stars, they've been deeper in this series. Ottinger's been better than Hellebuck. And it's funny, Hellebuck hasn't been as bad this series as he was against the Blues, but it's still not up to par for where he was during the regular season. I still think he could be quite a bit better, but Dallas, their big guns are going, especially with Rantanen. Johnson's been great. Hintz has been great. They got Robertson back. They got Heiskanen back, who was really good in his first game back. But they're also getting the depth. I think Jamie Benn has had a really solid playoffs. Tyler Seguin is also playing well. Even Mason Marchment has had a pretty decent playoffs. So they're getting contributions from all 4 lines. And defensively, now that Heiskanen's back, it really softens the load of that right side, especially just because they were playing with that makeshift right side for so long. But now that they have Haskin and Harley back, two basically number one defensemen on their team.
Two of the 10 best defensemen in the world on the same team.
I think I would agree with that. Now that they have those two back, it just makes everything so much easier for them. But for the Jets, I got to continue to see it here from Kyle Connor. I want to see it from Nick Ehlers. And you're at home. This should be, hopefully for them, a good start for Connor Hellebuyck. He's been a lot better at home in the playoffs than on the road. I mean, God forbid, the whole team can't win on the road in the playoffs to save their lives right now. So for them, it's one game at a time. You win this one, okay, you'll have a shot to win one road game before potentially making it really interesting in Game 7. But, I can't say I'm too surprised by how this series has gone so far. I picked the Stars in 7 just because I felt like it was maybe be a little bit tighter, but I still felt like going in the Stars were the better team, and that's been on display so far.
We are going to take our first break of today's edition of Locked On NHL, and when we come back, Hunter and I are going to tell you why it seems like the Eastern Conference might already be over on today's edition of Locked On NHL. The NBA and NHL playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers epic moments, major momentum shifts, and legendary opportunities. Whether it's a game-winning shot or an overtime game-winning goal, there has never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it so easy to stay in the game before tip-off and during the game. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you think Mikko Rantanen's going to continue his nuclear playoff run, you could do something simple like shots on goal. If you're feeling frisky, you could do total points. Or if you think the Jets are going to bounce back, maybe Connor Hellebuyck saves. Or over in the association tonight, we got an elimination game. You think the Joker is going to force a Game 7? If you want to roll Nikola Jokic points, rebounds, assists, just saying. And now you can win $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com and place that first $5 bet. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out with Hunter and I on this Thursday edition of Locked On NHL. And Hunter, my friend, before the playoffs started, we said whoever won the Tampa Bay Florida series was going to win the East. And that has not changed in my opinion. My opinion on that matter has not changed in the slightest bit. If anything, I think I feel stupider for not picking Florida to win the East and picking Tampa Bay to win the East sitting here now. But we'll start there because I think the conversation is a lot more interesting than the Carolina-Washington series, which I would describe as sitting at the DMV from a TV perspective. Like, if you're at the game, I'm sure it's great. But on TV, it's just a lot of empty dump and chase and not a whole lot of actual hockey going on.
Don't tell that to Hurricanes fans, my friend. But no,
look,
I think I'd rather watch the water.
The defense. Freddie Anderson's having a nice series. We'll talk about it the second half of the segment. But if you're Toronto now, I think Brendan Shanahan might come up in that third segment we're going to have where jobs that are available and the Islanders job. And it's not out of the question because at this point, you're sitting here as the Leafs. And look, it's not over. As much as we all think it's over, as much as the Leafs themselves might think it's over, it's not over until one team wins 4 games. It's not out of the question Toronto wins Game 6. But based on the way this team's last 8 seasons have gone, based on the way this team's best players have played in the playoffs, based on the way the supporting cast has been, especially in this series, and how good Florida looks, this is I don't want to say this is Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill if you're the Leafs, but it's got to be pretty close. I mean, this is as daunting as it gets. This is the best team in the NHL over the last 2 years in Florida, and you got to beat them 2 straight times, and all of your best players have no confidence.
It's crazy, man. They were up 2-0
and they were up 3-1.
It's 2-0 on this Panthers team. You have 3-1 in Game 3. You go to overtime. You're 1 shot away from going up 3-0. You have them pinned down on the mat. You're ready for the kill shot, but you let them get off the mat. You let them reset. You let them recharge. You can't ever do that to a champion. And you're seeing why, Nick. They win that Game 3, they win Game 4, and then they blow them out in Game 5. And now all Leafs fans are like, well, here we go again. And this could be the last game of the Core 4 era coming up in Sunrise. I hate saying it, but Marner's a UFA. There's going to be a lot of rumors about him. There could be a whole bunch of other changes as well. I mean, Zararis, of course, as well, Nick. So it's put up or shut up time for a lot of these Leafs players. Austin Matthews, I get it. He is banged up. He's got to answer the call, man. I'm sorry.
Someone's got to. It's not going to be Bobby McMahon. It's not going to be David Kampf.
No. When you are one of the best players in this league, you need to be able to, for at least this game, to put your team on your back. You have not been able to do that at all. And that
doesn't necessarily mean scoring a goal. Right. That means being noticeable. Yes. That means making a difference. That means being active. You don't need to go out there and score a hat trick. Sure. If you go out there and make an impact, give your team a chance to win, that's all I'm asking. I know goal scoring is fickle. We're reasonable people.
Yeah, 100%. And, you've seen Nylander. He's been great in these playoffs. I think actually Marner has had a really good playoff run so far. I think Zararis has also had some moments, but we haven't seen that from Matthews yet, man. I get it.
What are you prepared to do about it? Yeah. What are you prepared to do? They're saying you're bald. They're saying you're going to Turkey this summer to get your hairline fixed. They're saying you have no clutch gene. Can you win this game, Austin Matthews? They're saying it's over. They're saying you have no chance. They're saying Florida's unbeatable. All right. No man is unbeatable. Anyone can be beat on any day. But you got to go out there and do it. It's one thing to have the ability to do it, to take action and making it happen, man. That's what it's all about. And we all think it's over. Steve Dangle thinks it's over.
He's turned into the Joker at this rate, man. I mean, he had that crazy Joker laugh last night. He has a full Bane reference from one of the Batman movies last night during his live stream. He's just too far gone at this rate. I don't even know what he's going to do if they lose Game 6 in Sunrise. But for the Panthers, in all seriousness, Bob woke up, Nick. First couple of games of the series, kind of was a little bit of a throwback to his Columbus days in the playoffs.
Marchand's been great.
Yeah, when he wasn't that good. But since then, he really woke up, got back to the Bob that we saw in the playoffs these last couple of years. Barkov's been great. Tkachuk's been great. Reinhart, et cetera, et cetera. They're playing like the champs. And if they keep this up, man, I don't think there is a single other team that can beat them in this conference. And we could be potentially on our way. I don't want to get too far out of myself here. We could be on our way to a Stanley Cup Final rematch if this keeps going the way it is, man.
Pull my arm. Rack them up. Let's do it. I would not complain.
I wouldn't either. It would be
I said it on Locked On Oilers. Yeah. I said it on Locked On Oilers that there's no. This is how I ended Thursday's show. You have an opportunity to get your lick back of the highest degree. If you see Florida again, you have the opportunity to not only right a wrong, you have an opportunity to show what makes you special. But real quick, we should hit Carolina, Washington, because that game is also tonight. Carolina's going to close that out. It feels like Washington just does not have the guys requisite. And I think this is a bad style matchup for Washington. I think they're a slow team. I don't think they're particularly adept in transition, and they're relying on their individual guys to carry the puck through the neutral zone, which only plays into what Carolina wants to do. The second most aggressive forecheck in the league after Florida, Carolina runs. And they're doing the thing, man. Carolina, when they play opponents they know they're better than, they suffocate them. It's like trying to wrestle a snake. You get strangled slower and slower, and the more you try and fight out of it, the stronger the squeeze is. And Carolina, man, it's not pretty, it's not exciting, but when they have you, there's nothing you can do. You look at how frustrated Ovechkin's been, how little they've been able to get, especially at 5-on-5. There's just not a whole lot going on for Washington.
Nick, they have 3 5-on-5 goals in 4 games of this series. They have been completely suffocated to death. Like they have nothing at 5-on-5. Their power play has struggled quite a bit. And I was saying this about Carolina's penalty kill on Twitter. It's not even really a penalty kill. It's more like a power kill. Look at the way they pressure you right when you get into the offensive zone. There's no room. They give you nothing. Even when you get a chance to set up your power play, they come up so high to take away the shooting lanes and take away the passing lanes, and they force you into those quick decisions. And some of these teams, especially the Caps, they're not used to that. So they panic and they kind of just send the puck wherever. And Carolina's like, okay, thank you very much. We're just going to take this, kill all of the penalty. And they're, I think, one of 3 teams that can run a kill like that. The others being the Devils and the Dallas Stars. It's a power kill. It's very, and I mean very good. There's a reason why they've had one of the NHL's best penalty kills this season. And we don't need to beat around the bush. Is Carolina's style a little bit boring? Yes. We'll say that. I think
but it's effective, so it doesn't matter.
But yeah, it doesn't matter. You're winning. If you're a Hurricanes fan, why would you care what other people say? You're up 3-1. You can just close your ears and be like, la, 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 I'm not listening to you. And you're 1 win away from going back to the conference final. With the Hurricanes also, Freddie Anderson, I mean, he is 935, 940-ish in this series. He has been great. Seth Jarvis has been really good in this series. Stan Coven has been also really good. You had Taylor Hall. I think he's also had a really good series too. Nick Sean Walker gets a goal. But this is also the thing with Washington for me. You led the league in shooting percentage. And I was saying this to you the other night. You play a team like Carolina, it's no wonder why your shooting percentage is going to crater and you're not going to be able to finish the chances that you were able to during the regular season. You're right. It's not a good matchup for them. They're being suffocated every single shift. And the Hurricanes' style of play, I have noticed this every time they're in the playoffs before they go up against a team that their big dogs are a bit better. But as a series goes on and they are up on you in a series, it wears down the opponent. Like you've seen it with the Capitals. They look gassed. That's what it feels like to me when I watch this series. Game 1. The Hurricanes were just peppering them every single time. Game 2, the Capitals bounced back, but you still could see they were looking a little bit more tired. Games 3 and 4, they came out fine, Nick. I think they had a good first 10, 15 minutes. After that, they were completely obliterated by the Hurricanes. And yeah, is there a little bit of bad luck in there with the Capitals? Sure, just because they could have finished some of their chances in games 3 and 4. They had some really good looks on Freddie Anderson. But after that, they were outclassed at home. And Carolina is very good in Raleigh, but I feel like at some point over one of these next 3 games, I think the Hurricanes are going to close us out. I think they're too much for Washington. Anything can happen, but I just don't know if I see the Capitals offense waking up 3 games in a row against a team that is so stingy in their own zone.
We are going to take our second and final break of today's edition of Locked On NHL. When we come back, Hunter and I are going to offer some perspective on some of the hirings like Rick Tocchet, like Ken Holland, and a whole lot more on today's edition of Locked On NHL. So be sure to stick around. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out with Hunter and I on this Thursday edition of Locked On NHL. And we wanted to wait a little longer because there were quite a few openings last week before we got to the show, and wanted to just kind of hit on a few because more topical ones. Ken Holland being hired in LA, Rick Tocchet in Philadelphia, the 2 most pressing ones that come to mind. The Islanders are still in need of both a GM and a president, which is devolving into really interesting palace intrigue from an organization that's largely been quiet for much of the Lou Lamoriello era. So this is a departure from their standard operating procedure. And I want to start with the Islanders because I think it's really interesting. So number one, they hire Lou to overhaul the organization. New ownership wants somebody to get a handle on it, to establish them, to put them in the right direction, to get them set up for the new building that opened a couple seasons ago now. And Lou, the first thing he does, he hires Barry Trotz. They go to 2 conference finals in a row. They are on the doorstep. And slowly but surely, the core of those 2 teams is extended and ages, and the miles accumulate. Some of the guys, like Adam Pelech, suffer serious injuries and don't get back to what they were. They reach a very defined, capped out ceiling as first round exit. And now you are seeing Ken Holland interviewed for the Islanders job, looked at that job versus the Kings job, which means a first round date with Vegas or the Oilers in the first round every year, and said, I think that's a better job, which to me, I think that tells you a lot about what he in particular thinks about the Oilers and where they're at.
I still, if I'm the Kings, I don't really know why I'm making this hire. I would have just gone with someone else, but they're desperate. I get it today.
Credibility. It on paper, it's if you're the president of that team, on paper, you bring this to your owner and say, look at everything this guy has accomplished, and the owner signs off on it, and it buys you time. That's what it does. our perspectives are different than the hockey men perspectives. Who the hockey men only care about the resume. They don't care about the recency. They don't care about the personal stuff. They say he has drafted X, Y, and Z. He has won X, Y, and Z, and I can sell this. And sometimes you got to consider it and think about it that it's political capital. You know, as a president, you go to your owner and you want to justify, well, I'd like to hire Matthew Darche. Well, he has no experience. Do we want a guy learning on the job for the first time? And that's the real conundrum.
No, I get it. And again, they're desperate. I think at this point, they keep losing to the Oilers. They want Ken Holland to kind of, get some old magic back in there, make some good player acquisitions to try and put them over the hump. Like, this was a very good Kings team this year. They still need a little bit more work, but they were still great throughout the season. Very stingy, great at home, and they had the Oilers on the ropes. They just couldn't find the knockout punch against them in their first round. So they're hoping that he can find his fastball again, even though I think Ken Holland kind of lost his fastball quite a few years ago, at least in my opinion. The Islanders, their search is interesting. Like, you have Jarmo Kekalainen connected to there, Mark Bergevin, Matthew Darche. I would just go with Matthew Darche, by the way. I think he's more than ready to be a GM in the league. You have some of the coaching hires that just got announced, Nick. Adam Foote. I think that's more so that Quinn Hughes stays. Quinn Hughes likes Adam Foote quite a bit. So I think they kind of made the safe hire, because I think, in my opinion, Malhotra probably would have been a little bit of a better hire. But I think they went safe, to me, because they want Quinn Hughes to stay. Like, they don't want him, God forbid, asking out and going for him to play with his
Jersey
brothers.
Turnpike. Get ready to learn New Jersey Turnpike, brother. Quinn Hughes will be a New Jersey Devil in short order. I have no reservations about that. It's unfortunate for Ranger fans and the like, but Quinn Hughes wants to play with his brothers, and it's the most obvious thing in the world.
Well, I don't want him coming to the Metropolitan Division. So
I wouldn't like it either, but I get it. Like, if I could play with my two brothers and we could all be on the same team and be on a good team, I'd want to do it too. It lines up nicely with when Dougie Hamilton will be coming off their books as well, which is just perfect. You just take Dougie Hamilton's money, add $5 million a year to it, and there you go. Quinn Hughes as a Devil.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that Quinn Hughes decides to stay in Vancouver for a while. But you have the other hire, Rick Tocchet, to Philadelphia. We felt like that was coming for a while. And Tocchet, 5 years, a little over $5 million per. It looks like those are the reports, Nick. That's a lot for someone that's only made the playoffs twice as a head coach, man.
Once in the real playoffs. We should say real playoffs only once. Like, yeah, they did beat Edmonton in the play-in round. Or I forget who Arizona. No, because Edmonton lost to Chicago in the play-in round. I forget who Arizona beat. But the year Taylor Hall was a Coyote, they did win the play-in round, if I remember
I think
correctly.
it was Nashville, if I recall correctly.
That sounds right. That sounds vaguely right. But at the same time, we've said this before. Rick Tocchet's just got to be the coolest dude ever. The way everyone talks about him, that he's this great manager of people, that he's always got his teams prepared. Did we all forget what happened with the Canucks this year? That his two best players hated each other so much they had to trade one of them? Does he not get any blame for that at all, for not being able to manage adults? I mean, the object impermanence, the fact he gets to go on TNT, they don't mention at all, yeah, you got fired because you did a bad job. It's crazy to me that we just pretend, oh yeah, Rick's back, like he's a recurring character on a sitcom, that the TNT intermission panel is like Days of Our Lives, that, oh, he was gone for 6 years, he was in a coma, now he's back. Yeah, he did a bad job. They overachieved last year. They had like 105 PDO. He lost to Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard in a second-round playoff series. Why do you want him? Because he's friends with Wayne Gretzky? Because he's a great hang? That's awesome. But I tweeted it yesterday. The Flyers said it's not going to be business as usual. They have 3 Flyers alumni as the general manager, president, and coach of the team now. If that's not business as usual in the NHL, I don't know what is. There is just no object permanence. I don't get. Why is Rick Tocchet making almost as much money as Mike Sullivan? Mike Sullivan's won 2 Stanley Cups and coaches the U.S. national team. He has a resume. Rick Tocchet's greatest accomplishment is getting the Coyotes from a 72-point team to an 81-point team. Great. Thanks.
He's got a great PR team, man. That's what it is. His PR team knows no bounds. And yes, by the way, it was Nashville that Arizona beat in the play-in round in the playoffs in 2020 for that COVID stuff. So I knew I remembered that right. But he also needs to figure out how to get more offense out of his system, and especially from his players. That was a big issue in Vancouver, especially this year. Like, they just were not getting a lot of offense out of this team. They could defend, Nick. That wasn't a problem. But they could not get any offense out of this group. That needs to improve quite a bit. I'm curious to see how his relationship is with Matvei Michkov. Getting more offense out of him. Obviously, he was great this year as a rookie, don't get me wrong, but obviously getting a bit more offense out of him, that's going to be paramount. They also got to get a goalie at some point this offseason. They can't run back that tandem, I think, for this upcoming season. So you have those, and then you really have 4 coaching spots left. You have Boston, Chicago, Pittsburgh, and Seattle. Do we want to touch on the Ducks at all?
I got nothing to offer that's interesting on the Quenneville stuff. The personal, that's a team that's desperate. They want credibility really badly. It's the same reason the Blue Jackets hired Mike Babcock.
Well, they want to make the playoffs next year too. Like they have specifically said that during their offseason. Pat Verbeek went to the media and said, like, no, we are ready to make the playoffs, or he thinks he is. I am a little bit more down on them. I don't think they're ready for that just yet, but that's why he hired Quenneville. So because they want to make the playoffs.
It's desperation. We'll see the open jobs. Real quick, what team is Mitch Marner play opening night on next year? Toronto? Somewhere else? Give me a team.
Oh, somewhere else. I was going to say Pittsburgh for the memes, just because.
Dubas, yeah.
But no, they are not signing Mitch Marner. It doesn't make any sense. So it's going to be somewhere else. I'm not going to give you a team. You said Vegas. It's going to be somewhere else, though.
Watch for Carolina. Ooh. Not out of the question. Hunter and I will talk to you guys next Thursday. Everyone enjoyed the Stanley Cup playoffs. I will be enjoying a few days of not worrying about the Oilers.